Okay, we're on. So, my class here, Spanish 1, period 2. Ta-da! Alrighty. When it comes to verbs, you remember that there are three groups of verbs. You got your ARs, your ERs, and your IR ending verbs. Just by way of review, I will take one from each case. Hablar. Hablar means, what does it mean? To talk. And by now you should definitely know how to conjugate any of these verbs. You got to set up your handy dandy little verb chart box, and you can do this. If you can just do this once, that's fine pretty much, but if you can do it by memory, that's the way you want to do it, because this should be an ingrained habit by now. Nosotros, vosotros, third person plural is your ellos, ellas, ustedes. Okay. We remember that there are two steps to conjugating a verb. Step 1, you drop off the ending, which in this case is AR. That would leave me with all this business. Habla, like so. All right. All prior knowledge so far. Now, when it comes to conjugating, step 1 is drop off the AR. Step 2 is add the appropriate ending. Who can tell me what the ending is? And oh, hablo, I speak. How about the to form? Hablas as for the to form of an AR verb. The he, she form. Habla, the A. I put them in red because those stick out. Those are the ones that you should have memorized by now. O, A, S, and A. Plurals. Okay, what do we have for nosotros, amigos? Hablamos, A-M-O-S. Vosotros, anybody? Faded there, A-I-S. And finally, to say they speak would be hablan. Okay, boom, prior knowledge. What if I took a verb that ended in ER, like the verb comer, to eat? All right, if I asked you conjugate comer, you would do the very same thing with your subject pronouns. You just bang these out like it's nothing because you know these so well. And the plurals, if you don't want to rewrite the subject pronouns, feel free to skip this step. As long as you know what order everything goes in, I am okay with that. Okay, step 1, drop off the ending, as we've seen 105 times. And step 2, add the appropriate ending. The endings of an ER verb, slightly different than the AR verb. The endings to an ER verb for the yo form. Oh, again. Como, I eat. For the to form, here's where the changes start. Yes. Él, ella, usted, he or she eats. Y come. Nosotros would be not AMOS because it's not an AR verb. It's what? EMOS. And then vosotros would be EIS. And your ellos, ellas, ustedes comen. One more quick group here, and we'll be done with our prior knowledge. You take the verb vivir, to live. To live, that's an IR verb. And what I would want to do here is get my conjugations. Step 1, drop off the ending, which is an IR. Step 2, add the appropriate ending. Okay, the ER and IR endings are the same, except in two forms. So the same E, the same ES, the same E. Here's where the changes happen. IR verb, IMOS, IR verb, IS, instead of ES and AS. Whoa. All right. And EN, all prior knowledge, all good so far? You know your ER, AR, and IR ending verbs. So what's this new knowledge business? Okay, new business. All right. Vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, vivis, viven. Okay, so E to IE stem changing verbs. What in the world do I mean by that? Well, it's kind of simple. You're basically adding one step. All right? Let's take the verb empezar. Who remembers what I say when I start an activity? I say uno, dos, tres, empezamos. Do you know what that means? Empezar means to begin. Every time I say uno, dos, tres, empezamos, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, let's begin. That's the word begin. Okay, so yo, tú, él, nosotros, vosotros, and your ellos. Or, of course, your ellas. Or, of course, your ustedes. I probably should have put that over here also. Sorry. Usted. Okay. The stem change is this. First, we do EM, P. All right. This E right here, I want to change the E to IE. And then keep the Z. Now that's the stem. That's why it's called a stem changing verb, because you've got to take it upon yourself to change the E to IE. Keep the Z, and then the AR drops off again like you would normally, just like it was on hablar, and you add the appropriate ending, which I just heard from the audience is O. So the only thing I've done is I've added a step. I dropped off the ending. I now have changed the stem. That's why it's called a stem changing verb. I changed that E to an IE. You can also think of it as adding an I if you want. That's all I did. Kept the Z and then made the ending O. Okay, so you could probably predict what this is going to be, right? EMP, change that E to an IE, keep the Z, and then keep the same ending. So empiezas means you begin. The third person singular, he or she or you. PIE, change the E to an IE, keep the Z, and empieza. Very good. Now, here's the trick. Former Spanish 1 students will recognize what I'm doing right now. What am I drawing right now? What am I drawing? This is what kind of resembles a boot. You're going to hear of stem changing verbs referred to as boot verbs. What that means is that the stem change happens only inside the boot. In other words, do not apply the stem change outside of the boot, only inside of the boot. So when you hear, if you have Mrs. Saint or Mrs. Steveman or Miss Vasquez or even me next year perhaps, you're going to hear this. This is a boot verb. This is a boot verb. Okay, what should click off in your head is, okay, what that means is I'm going to think of it as a boot. The change happens within the boot. So let's see how this applies. Nosotros, EMP, no change. I'm not going to make it IE. I'm just going to keep it E, Z, and then your typical ending for oops, let me keep my color scheme here. Typical ending for an AR verb in the nosotros form is AMOS. The same is going to happen for this. EMP, not IE, but just E, because it's outside of the boot. Keep the Z and AIS. Now we're back inside the boot. So I'm going to take a pause here, and you figure out what that is going to be. Write down what you think. They begin, how you conjugate that. And I will do it in about 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. Okay. Empiezan. The E changes to IE. So, there you have it. An stem changing verb.